Welcome, dear dreamer. It is Dream Atlas. Tonight, we journey beyond the veil of time, across silver seas and whispering winds, to a place where youth never fades and dreams breathe like dawn upon the water. Close your eyes. Let the world grow soft and distant. You are about to step into the dreaming Isle of Tír. There is a tide that carries the soul beyond time. If you listen closely, truly listen, you might hear it now, the whisper of waves that do not belong to this world, and a wind that speaks in forgotten tongues. It begins upon a lonely shore in ancient air, when the moon was full and the stars drifted like lanterns over the sea. The air was silver, heavy with the scent of salt and wild clover, and the sound of a single harp trembled across the night. There, beneath a sky that seemed to breathe, walked Oisín, the poet and warrior of the Fianna, son of Fionn MacCumhaill, whose songs once shook the hearts of men. He was a dreamer, even among heroes, for his gaze often wandered beyond the horizon, as if searching for something unseen. But bards say he carried a light, not born of fire, but of longing, a flame that could not rest in the mortal world. One evening, as twilight poured its honeyed glow across the waves, a mist rose from the ocean, white and slow, like the breath of eternity. And from that mist emerged a white horse, its mane flowing like silk spun from moonlight. Upon its back sat a woman, her hair gold as dawn, her eyes deep as the sea. Her name was Niamh Cin Or, Niamh of the golden hair, princess of the immortal realm Tír, the land of eternal youth. Oisín felt the world still around him. Even the wind seemed to hold its breath. When she spoke, her voice was music, not sung, but remembered, as if it had lived inside his soul long before he was born. Oisín of the Fianna, she said, I have crossed the waters between worlds to find you. Come with me to the isle beyond sorrow, where no one grows old and no tear ever falls. He did not ask who she was or how she knew his name, for in that instant, all the ache and dust of the mortal world faded like smoke. He saw in her eyes the reflection of a land where time itself slept, and in his heart, he knew he had been waiting for this call his entire life. The sea whispered softly as he mounted the white horse. The world of men, its wars, its winters, its weary songs, drifted behind him. And as the horse's hooves touched the waves, the ocean turned to glass beneath them. They rode across the mirror of the sea, the stars trembling below their feet, the wind singing of a place where dreams never die. And somewhere far ahead, beyond the last breath of dawn, the shores of Tír began to shimmer, green and gold and endless. They rode through the mist that veiled the edge of the world. Light gathered around them, golden and tender, as though dawn itself were being born from the breath of the sea. When the mist lifted, Oisín beheld a sight that no mortal eyes had ever seen. Before him stretched a land made of music and sunlight, a green so pure it seemed to hum, a sky so blue it rippled like water. The Isle of Tír lay before him, the land of eternal dawn. The grass shimmered with dew that sparkled like fragments of stars. The air carried the scent of apple blossoms and honeyed wind. Every leaf, every stone, every ripple upon the lakes seemed alive, gently pulsing with quiet joy. There were hills that glowed with inner fire, and forests of silver trees whose branches rang softly when the wind passed through. Rivers wandered like ribbons of light, and from them rose songs sung by unseen voices, melodies that told stories older than memory. Niamh turned to him, her eyes radiant with the calm of eternity. "This is our home," she whispered. "Here there is no death, no shadow, no sorrow. Every moment is a dawn that never fades." They rode together through meadows where golden deer moved like whispers. Butterflies with wings of glass drifted between flowers that glowed faintly in the twilight. And when the sun touched the horizon, it did not fall. It simply lingered, spilling warmth over the land, forever caught between day and dream. At the heart of the island rose a palace woven from light, its towers soft and luminous, its walls breathing with gentle color, as if carved from clouds. There, music floated in the air, harps and flutes that played themselves, melodies that wrapped around Oisín's heart like a warm tide. He felt his body lighter, his thoughts slow and silken. The weight of years fell away from him like sand through open hands. He looked at his reflection in a still pool and saw not the weathered face of a warrior, but the bright eyes of youth once more. His heart ached with wonder. "Time sleeps here," said Niamh softly. "It does not count the days, for there are no days to count. Only the eternal now, a moment stretched across forever." They feasted beneath skies that never darkened, with laughter echoing like bells. He listened to stories told by beings made of starlight, walked among gardens that glowed under a sun that never set. Everywhere he went, the island seemed to know his name. The wind would sigh, Oisín through the grass, and the streams would murmur it as they passed. At night, if night could even exist there, he lay beside Niamh beneath the endless twilight, and the world hummed softly around them, as if the island itself were breathing in its sleep. He dreamed, yet he did not. He slept, yet he was more awake than ever before. For in Tír there was no border between dreaming and being, no edge where the soul ended and the world began. And though eternity had no measure, it passed for him like the sigh of a single breath. For a time beyond counting, Oisín lived in peace. The days flowed like clear water, and the light of Tír na nÓg never dimmed. He rode through endless fields where flowers never wilted. He listened to laughter that floated through the air like drifting petals. He sang with Niamh beneath silver trees, their voices mingling with the wind. There was no hunger, no sorrow, no shadow. And yet, in the quiet of eternity, a seed of longing began to stir within him. It began softly, like a faint echo from a far shore, a voice calling through mist. Sometimes he would stop and listen, and in the silence, he thought he heard the distant sound of waves breaking against mortal rocks, the cry of a gull, the rustle of wind through oaks that once grew in Ireland. Memories drifted back to him, the laughter of his comrades in the Fianna, the smell of peat fires, the feel of rain upon his skin. He remembered his father, Fionn mac Comhiel, and the stories told beside the hearth. He remembered battlefields and songs, fleeting, fragile, but bright. And in that remembrance, the perfect stillness of Tír na nÓg began to feel too still. Niamh, he said one twilight, as they watched the horizon that never changed. How long have we been here? She smiled, but there was sorrow in her eyes. There is no how long in this place, my love. The sun has not set since you came. The flowers you first saw still bloom. Time is only a dream we left behind. Bridge still carries the heartbeat of the mortal world. And so it was that one dawn, Oisín turned to Niamh with tears in his eyes. I must see my home again, he said. Just once. I must walk the hills of Éire and hear the voices of my people. Niamh's golden hair shimmered like a falling star. Her face was calm, but her voice trembled like the edge of a harp string. Oisín, you do not understand. The land you left behind is not the same. In Tír na nÓg, 100 years can pass in the blink of a dream. He took her hand, his eyes full of love and quiet resolve. Then let me dream it one last time. Niamh wept softly, for she knew that no mortal who returned ever came back to her. But her love was deep, deeper than fear. She called forth the white horse once more, its mane shimmering like the moon. Go then, she whispered, but promise me this. Do not set foot upon the earth. Stay upon the horse, and you may return. Touch the ground, and time will claim you. Oisín nodded, though he did not yet understand the weight of her warning. And so, with a final kiss beneath the endless dawn, he turned his face toward the sea once more. The waves opened for him as before, and Tír na nÓg faded behind him, a dream receding into mist. The sea was calm as glass when Oisín rode once more toward the world of men. Mist rose around him, white and endless, curling through the air like the breath of forgotten ages. He rode for what felt like a single dawn, and yet the sea beneath him shimmered with centuries. Every wave that broke was an age passing. Every whisper of wind, a story fading into dust. Then, ashore, the emerald coast of Era appeared before him, bathed in pale sunlight. His heart leapt, for it was the home of his youth, the soil of his songs. He urged the white horse forward, and soon his hooves struck the sand. But as Oisín looked around, his joy turned to silence. Where once had stood the halls of the Fianna, now lay only grass and ruins. The forests were changed. The rivers no longer sang his name. The soak of hearths had vanished from the valleys, and strange crosses of stone rose in their place. He called out once, twice, but only the echo of gulls answered. The world had grown quiet, too quiet. "How long has it been?" he whispered to the wind. But the wind did not know him anymore. He rode across fields he no longer recognized, through villages where people stared in awe at his shining horse and youthful face. They spoke a tongue twisted by centuries, and though their words were kin to his, he understood only fragments, like half-remembered dreams. At last, he came upon a group of men struggling to lift a great stone from the road. Moved by kindness, Oisín dismounted, still astride the horse's back. "Let me help you," he said, his voice carrying the calm of another world. They laughed softly, thinking him mad, a wandering spirit. But he reached down, and with a single touch of his hand, the stone shifted as though weightless. And in that moment, his foot slipped. Just for an instant, the tip of his boot brushed the earth. The world shuddered. The air grew heavy. The white horse reared back, crying out like thunder, and vanished in a burst of light. Oisín fell to the ground, and as he touched the soil of air, time, all the years he had left behind, came rushing back into him. His hair turned white as frost, his skin, once smooth, folded like parchment. The strength of youth fled from his limbs, and he fell to his knees, old, fragile, trembling beneath the weight of centuries. The men stared in horror. The bright-eyed rider of the Golden Dawn had become an ancient before their eyes. "Tell me," he whispered, "where are the Fianna? Where is Fionn, my father?" But they only shook their heads. Their stories spoke of the Fianna as legends from a distant past. Heroes who had lived long before their grandfather's time. Oisín's heart broke like a wave upon the rocks. He had crossed the edge of eternity, only to find himself alone among ghosts. He gazed once more toward the sea, hoping, just hoping that he might see the white horse return, or hear Niamh's voice calling him home. But there was only the wind, and the slow sigh of the tide. "Tír na nog," he murmured, "was never a place. It was the dream that waits just beyond the waking world." And as his eyes closed for the final time, the air shimmered softly as though the island itself had reached out to gather him home again. For the sea remembers all who dream.